So the reason, all right, so now I'm just put it on record because I want to record it for future use, maybe. I think it's a good instructional. So this is kind of the introduction to fundamentals. There's like a lot of courses out there you can take at the college that'll give you, fundamentals of programming. They'll teach you about things like variables. They'll teach you about, you know, doing all the kinds of operations you would do that are, that any program does. Things like doing math, things like manipulating texts, things like how data is stored, where it's stored, how to run a file, how to build a file, all that stuff. Like that's fundamentals of like, computer programming. Honestly, don't know what they teach nowadays. I obviously did computer science stuff when I was in college, but uh, yes, you don't need all of that to start right away. And the last time I tried to kind of teach you some of this stuff, I probably maybe a little bit more than I should have just kind of was like, here, read this book, learn from that, and then ask questions. It's just
Mhm.
like, you can do that, but like unless it's something you're really, really interested in or something like that, it's kind of hard to really be engaged in it. Or something like you're like super, super, yeah. At least for me, and I was super interested in it. So for me, like I would just randomly try to read stuff and like do it, but that's not everyone. Um, and even then, I still needed to like put it into practice. And so, okay, this is why I've selected basically what I'm trying to get at is I chose Access because it's a way that you can learn a lot of the basics without knowing how it all works, and you can make something very useful without necessarily needing to know how a lot of systems work. So in my work, when I make something, I have to set up a server. Sometimes I have to install a database engine. I have to install a web server. I have to choose which languages I'm going to use to like execute my web code or my service code or my database code. I have to integrate all these things together. I have to know stuff about, in some cases, services, because everything uses a RESTful service these days. I have to know a little bit about architecture. If I want to get super fancy, I have to know about continuous integration. There's all these different things you can know and learn about. But why I've chosen Access and what's great about Access is you can actually make a complete system, your own system, without knowing any of that stuff. You don't need to know about all of that. You can just, you know, and arguably you don't need all of that for every single solution that you make. But in our case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how in Access to build a simple school system. And so, think about what kinds of things does your school need to do, right? They need to have some place where people can get information about professors, right? Like who works at the school. They need to know what students are enrolled, what are their grades, what is their attendance, what were their transcripts like when they got in, what are the like, and then like each of these things has aspects to it. So for example, okay, fine, we have a place to get professors. Well, what information are we storing about professors? Their names, obviously, but what about their specialties, their salaries? There's so much information you can store, and then you need a way to show that. So like, Joe off the street. Well, I'm sorry, I say Joe a lot as like generic person. No, I'm not referring to you, even though I say that all the time. I'm like, yeah, just a regular Joe, but I anyway, it's kind of funny because that's your name, but
Okay.
so yeah. So what I'm getting at though is I'm choosing Access, and the reason I'm basically giving you like my fundamentals lessons in Access is because you can set up a whole system where just anybody off the street can come in, get on it, and use it without knowing anything about programming. And that's your job as a programmer, is to make a system that non-programmers can use to work with data and information. That's like 95%.
Oh, wait, say that one more time.
Okay, so a programmer's job, and basically what it is I do is I
Yeah.
design and make systems to manipulate data and work with information in a way that someone who's not a programmer is able to do. So I make it possible for, Jane in accounting to be able to see all the data in the system about how much money they're spending and stuff. So she doesn't know anything about programming, and yet she can get the information out of the database. Why? Because there's a program there that lets her interface with the computer and work with the data in a way that's easily understandable for her. So it's my
So you're
job to do.
technically working in security
Well, there's
or handling
security
people.
aspects. There's security aspects. Not everyone. I mean, I do work with some money stuff, but not everything is necessarily security. I mean, we have people who are good with that. I do a little bit of everything. I'm more of an integrations person. My specialty is, I think I have the most experience in databases and in integrations. And I've done everything. I've done UI, I've done CI, I've done QA, I've done everything. Or I'm sorry, I should probably explain what those are. When I say I've done CI, that's continuous integration. It's basically automatically building a project and deploying it out and like managing the source code with GitHub and all that stuff. And then there's, I also said QA, that's quality assurance, basically making like little programs that like test out the websites and stuff like that, like make sure they're all working. And then I also said I did, what did I say? I said I did QA, CI. I said something else, I can't remember. The point is, my specialty is databases, and so I'm so familiar with a lot of database solutions, and I even used to use Access. I like used Access way back in 8th grade, so I'm like so familiar with it. But the thing that stuck with me about Access is it is a database, and it's a UI, and it has a lot of ways that you can customize these two things together without necessarily needing to know a whole lot of programming. So that's why we've chosen this. That's why I'm teaching you this. And one of the things that like made programming like kind of why I ended up, chasing it down, because I was going to law school, like going to go to law school. But I think what like kind of settled it for me and was just like, yes, I actually can do programming, is when I made something and it worked and it was cool and it was impressive. I mean, looking back on it now, it wasn't that impressive, but being able to like make something myself, me, and it work and people use it, I was just like, oh great, this is actually something viable that I can do. And so Access kind of lets you do that without necessarily knowing a whole lot. So I don't think, I mean, there are some Access jobs out there. If I were you, I wouldn't expect, oh yes, I've learned Access, now I can go get a job doing Access. I wouldn't suggest that to anyone, but as a learning tool, the stuff you learn from what I'm going to teach you about Access is going to be used everywhere. Like the stuff you use about making a table and data retrieval, that's going to get used in SQL. And I know you know a little bit about SQL. Emphasis on little bit. That's a deep, deep world. But like the stuff you learn about table making and design is going to apply if you ever go do SQL programming, which is in high demand. Still, even though people have moved on to like unstructured data and JSON and whatever, SQL is still in very high demand, and it's still best relational database in my opinion. Best database for containing like large amounts of stuff that is very structured and tied together. Like for example, a professor has a class and a class has students and students have grades. That's how each of those things are related to each other. And when you have a bunch of stuff that's related to each other like that, to me, you should be using a relational database like SQL, Access, whatever it is. But what I'm getting at is, yeah, you're going to be able to take the stuff you learn from Access and apply it in other places. So not only the database stuff, but the UI stuff. So I'm going to show you a little bit about UI stuff. And when I say UI, you know what I mean by that, right? Like user interface, you know what I mean by that?
But I don't know what you mean by user interface. Now I know what UI means, user interface, but I don't know what the meaning.
Okay, so you sound really quiet. Are you close to the computer?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, maybe I just need to turn up my volume. Let's turn that up a little bit. Okay. Yeah. So, So I'm going to say the word database a lot, and I'm going to say the word UI a lot. Database is basically just a place where the data is, all the information. UI is the thing you use to interact with that data, the user interface. So basically, sure, yeah, think of it that way. It's the program you use to interact with the data.
Oh, user interface, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the user interface is basically all the buttons that you can see, like on your screen right now. You're looking at a UI right now. You've got the start menu there. You've got like all these buttons and icons, and you've got the mouse, and you've got windows. All those things are part of the user interface. All of those things are ways that you can interact with your computer. So when you're making a program, and sometimes you're not making a program, sometimes you're making a database, sometimes you're making a website. All these things are different. And not everything you do with programming is to make a program. A program is just a way to interact with something, right? But these things are interacting with something. For example, the program Google Chrome interacts with a website. You need a computer programmer to put together websites, but that's not a program, it's a website. You need a computer programmer to create your database, but that's not a program either, it's a database. So when you're creating programs, it's just ways to interact with other things.
Right.
Okay, so Access, what Access is gonna do for you is it's gonna be both a UI and a database. Meaning it's gonna be a program, the UI, which is gonna interact with the database, which contains all the information. All right, so I've talked enough. That's just kind of a very high level. Do you have any questions about that? Like why I've
No,
chosen Access?
I know. Well, yeah. Why do you? I just wanted one question. Why choose Access over Google Sheets?
Oh, that's a good question, because I did suggest to you that you get on Google Sheets and get familiar with stuff. Well, the reason I told you to get on Google Sheets and be familiar with how to use it is because I wanted you to learn about the formulas that are there. Because just being able to use that program really well, Sheets, will just give you a very good understanding of how you think of data. Sheets is just a place to store data. It's not a UI. It's just data. Yes, there are UI components, but you cannot create a system. If somebody told you right now, hey, Joe, I want you to build me a system that is going to track my school. And what I mean is I'm the owner of the school, I'm the president, and I want you to track all the information for me about all the stuff that's going on. I want you to track, what we're paying these people that we're hiring. I want you to track how many students we have. I want you to like make graphs out of that information. I need a system that does everything and I can just go to it, log in and get whatever information I need. And I want to be able to fire people. I want to be able to hire people. I want to be able to get people's report cards. I just need you to make this system for me. You can't do that in Sheets. All Sheets is going to do is store some information for you, okay? But I can't just like click a button and it like shows me stuff. You have to know how to navigate it, and manipulate it. What Access is going to do is it's going to do all that for you. It's going to be a complete system, okay? So do you see why I've chosen Access? Okay, you're calling me on the phone. I'm assuming the sound broke down or something.
Yeah, the sound.
You can't hear me anymore on the computer?
Nope. And for some reason it closed.
It closed. Well, just rejoin. I'll wait.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So what is the last part that you heard?
You said I want to see report cards as well, and then I was wow, that was a lot of data that you're going through. I don't think the only thing that I know that can handle that much data is probably SQL Server.
Yeah, so that's the data side, but what about the UI? What if you want to just click a button and someone's report card comes out and it can be printed
You'd
out?
have to make a program for all that.
Exactly. You cannot do that in Sheets. You need a program. This is why I've chosen Access.
Oh, Access can create a program that makes it
Access,
easily accessible?
Access, yes. Access is a full, it comes with a full-on design tool for making an entire program. So it's not just the
Oh my
data,
goodness.
it's everything. And that's why I've chosen it, because it does everything. You could put your entire system into this one thing. Now, I wouldn't recommend someone do that in this day and age, but like some people do. I worked for a client who had their entire school system tracked on Access. And that's how they printed out their report cards. That's how they put in grades. That's how they tracked the professors. That's how they took attendance. It was all through Access.
Wow.
And so, yeah, in addition to having like a sheet of like, oh yeah, you can see all the cells and stuff, they had that in there, but that's not how the teachers would use it. The teachers would like click on an icon and it would bring it up as its own program. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a very basic program for you right now. And I'm just gonna show it to you, and then you're actually gonna do the exact same thing. So I'm gonna go share screen now.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna do the very basics. I'm just gonna do the very basic, a very basic program. 1 second, I gotta share screen. Oh, Jude is texting me. Uh-oh. Because I'm supposed to start with him, but all right, you know what? Let me text him really quick and tell him there's gonna be a delay, because there's gonna be a delay.
Sorry about that.
Told you this was gonna take an hour. Okay.
We're halfway done.
So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and open Access. And this is the one I was working with Jude, but I'm gonna make a new one right now. And we're gonna call this database, give me a school name. You can make it up if you want. You can use a real one if you want. I don't care.
Golden Hill.
Sure. Golden Hill College. We'll call this database Golden Hill College. Bam. Just like that, we have a new program and database. So it starts you off with a table, but I'm just gonna close that. And right now, if you look over here where it says all access objects, there's nothing here. There's nothing here. So what I'm gonna do is from scratch, create this brand new program and this brand new database. It's an Access database, all brand new. And from scratch, I'm gonna create it. So first thing I'm gonna do is go create in the ribbon here, table. And I'm not gonna use this. So there's two different ways you can look at a table. There's data sheet view and there's design view. You see these?
Mm-hmm.
So when I click on this, it shows me the two ways to look at a table. I can also right click right here and it'll also show it to me here, design view, data sheet view, okay? I can also right click on it here, design view. And since it's already in data sheet view, it's not gonna tell me that, but as soon as I go to design view, all right, well, before I continue, I'm just gonna save. And it's gonna tell me, oh, what do you wanna call it? I'm gonna call this table students. And I always name my tables this way, and I'll explain why later, don't worry about it. But I always just put, when I'm making a table, TBL underscore, and then whatever the name is. So I'm gonna call this the students table, TBL students. So let's go to design view. I'm just gonna go ahead and click design view. And the very first field I'm gonna create is gonna be it's always gonna be an ID. So I'm gonna say student ID. So by default, it said ID. I just changed it to be more specific, student ID. And auto number is always what I'm gonna, so for my very first field, I always put what kind of ID it is and auto number. Don't worry about why, I'll explain that later. So what kinds of things might we wanna know about students?
I don't know.
Okay, well, let's say you're making a brand new data, well, their name, yeah. The very first thing you might wanna know about a student is their name. So I'm gonna store their first name. I'm gonna store their last name. What else might we wanna know about a student?
Address, age, sex.
Yep, age, sex, sex, address. I'm going to say street address. And I'm going to say city, state, zip. I never put address into just one field. I always separate it out that way. I can explain why later. Don't worry about it, but that's what I've chosen to do. So instead of age, what I'm going to do is say DOB, which is date of birth.
Wait, why are your fields going down instead of horizontal?
Good question. That's because we are in design view. Right now, okay, so Sheets is just simple, or Excel, Sheets, those are just spreadsheets. This is not a spreadsheet. This is a database table.
Okay.
So you have to design it first. You don't just get to, all right, so I'm going to open Excel for you real fast. In Excel, this column is A, this column is B, this column is C, this column is D. This row is 1, this row is 2, this row is 3, and so on and so on. All the columns and rows already exist. When you're making a database, none of that exists. You have to create all of it. So these are what the names of the columns are going to be. It's not going to be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, whatever. You're designing a brand new table, okay? And it's a lot more complicated in Excel because you have to say what those are. So instead of A, it's student ID. First name, last name, DOB, sex, street address, blah, 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 blah. So there is no A, B, C, blah, 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 blah. This is what it's going to be at the top. And you have to design that first.
Okay.
So I'm going to stop right here and save. And now I'm going to go to datasheet view. We've already finished designing. Let's just say I'm done designing students and go datasheet view. Now, look what's changed.
Yeah, everything's on top now instead of vertical.
Okay. It has nothing to do with being horizontal and vertical. What you need to understand is just we created a table called students. And when we're in design view, this is how you design the table.
Oh, okay.
So this is what my table looks like now that I'm in datasheet view. So I'm going to put in my first record. Notice how in Excel there's like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever.
Yeah.
You just throw things in cells, okay? That's because this is a spreadsheet. This is not a spreadsheet. This is a table. So every single row is its own record. That's very important for you to understand. It's a record.
Okay.
So here, look, if I just scroll down, it's just going to keep going forever. And there's going to be infinite numbers to the left, to downwards, infinite numbers. If I keep going to the right, it'll just keep going and going. Not like that in a database. In a database, you have to create everything. Every single row is a new record. Right now, it's empty. There are no records. So that's why there are no rows here. It just has blanks so that I can start typing in the first record. And then the columns, notice, it's not infinite columns. I can't just keep going to the right. The only columns that are here are the ones that I designed in design view. Okay?
Yeah.
Does this make sense so far?
Yeah.
This is what I mean by you're creating everything from scratch. Things aren't just there. You don't just open it up and things are just there. You make everything. So first thing we made is this student table. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting in the first record. We'll say Megan Rapinoe is our first student. And her date of birth, we'll say, is January the 1st, 1980. All right, cool. Well, she is female. Okay, female. She lives on 123 Fake Street in the city of Los Angeles, state of California, zip code 90024. All right. Notice, I've made the first record. And notice, I didn't even put in the number for her ID. Now, when I make this next record, what do you think is going to happen when I make this next record?
It's going to be a totally different record.
It is going to be a totally different record. What student ID do you think they're going to get?
2.
That's right. Now, why is it just automatically going to know to go to the next number?
Because you went into a different row.
Yeah, but how does it know that the next number is going to be 2?
It doesn't. It says new.
Well, it does. But as soon as I start typing.
Oh, because, yeah, that's just common. It's just common feature.
No, it's not common sense. I had to design that. Everything I do, I design. When you're working with databases, you have to tell it. I told it. Auto number.
Auto number.
And so each time you make a new record, it's going to automatically put a number there. So notice, I'm going to go back to datasheet view. I had to put in the first name, I had to put in the last name, I have to put in all this, but I don't have to put anything here. Why? Because it's auto numbered. So it's automatically going to do that for us every time we create records. You never need to touch this.
Okay.
And that's why when I design a table, the first thing I do is write an ID and put an auto number.
Well, how about for zip? You said short text. Isn't text a string?
I'm sorry, you're cutting out. What?
It says short text for zip. I
Yep.
thought text dignified or signified words, letters.
No. Okay, so yes and no. All it means when I say short text is it means I can type in, and you can even see right here, it says 255 field size. It means I can type in 255 letters and numbers. If you want, you can only put letters. If you want, you can only put numbers. But the point is you have a space for 255 of them. So I can just put in whatever I want, see? I can even put numbers. I can put whatever I want. It's just text.
Oh, okay.
Here's something you need to understand about text. Text can be letters or numbers or both. Now, I'm glad you brought that up because instead, date of birth is a date, not real. What we can do is we can actually specifically say that this is going to be a date or a time. So I'm going to do that and save it. I'm going to hit save. And I'm going to go back to datasheet view. Now, I notice when I'm going to click here where the date of birth is, and I type in ASDF, and then I go to the next thing, now it's saying I can't do that. Why? Why is it saying that? It's saying that because when I went to design, I said in this field, it has to be a date or a time. Just like the first field has to be an auto number, this has to be a date or a time. Oops. Put that back. Has to be a date or a time. Short text, you can type in whatever you want. But when you start telling these fields what they are, that's the only thing that can go in there.
Okay.
So the default is short text. So if I just say I
Yeah.
want a new field, like, I don't know, let's just say citizenship. And I just say enter. By default, it says that this field is going to be short text. And I'm just going to leave it alone. But if you specifically change this, it has to be that. Has to be. And it won't let you type in anything else. So I'm going to say 1/1/1990. And I'm going to go to the next thing. And notice it let me in there. It didn't stop me because that's a date. If I put in ASDF and then try to leave, it's saying, no, you can't leave. See? It's not even letting me go to anything else. So it has to be a date. I'm going to change that back to a date.
Okay.
And it lets me go to the next thing. See that?
Yeah.
All right, so Ralph here is a male. And he lives on, let's just say, 32 Broadway, Springfield, Illinois. And he doesn't really live there. I can't remember what their zip codes are over there, but we'll just make one up. And he's a citizen? Yes. And Megan Rapinoe? Yes. All right. So we have 2 students. Great. Do you have any questions about how I made this table
Nope.
or what this means?
Very simple.
Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a few more students. So just bear with me. Oh, no. Oh. Everybody's born in January the 1st.
Yeah, I noticed.
I gotta get more creative. It's hard to just make stuff up on the spot. I don't know. Let's just say Harvard, and then lives in I don't know, Beverly Hills, California 90210. Yes. All right. So now we've got a few students. Now notice this little pencil is here. What do you think that pencil means?
I don't know, but if you hover over it, I'm sure.
Nope, it's not going to tell you. You just have to know how Access works. That means that this record is being edited right now. Until I leave that record, until I leave this row and go somewhere else, that pencil doesn't go away, meaning it actually has not been saved yet. Till I leave. See? Now that I've left, if I start editing this again, the pencil comes back. But this row has not really truly saved until I leave this field and go somewhere else. Bam. See that? Pencil went away. So now that's saved. All right. So that's how you make a table. And the important thing for you to know about tables is that's where the data is stored.
I like designing the table.
Yeah,
it's like,
that's important too. Designing this table is important. You do need to know that, but you also need to know about the datasheet view. You need to know both because you're going to spend a lot of time in both. You're going to spend a lot of time in design view to design where the data lives. Like you're basically, the design view is like creating the shape or the container.
yeah.
And datasheet view is filling that container with stuff, which is your data. Okay? So you should probably write that down. Design view is controlling the design and the shape of the container that is going to hold stuff. So if I went to design view and I only had like 3 fields, well, I come out to datasheet view, you're only going to see 3 fields. So you're controlling the shape of the container that's going to hold your data. Then once you're over here in datasheet view, that is going to be your data. So that's all you need to know about tables for now. That's all you need to know. Now the very next thing I'm going to do is so now we've created a very small database. This is done. If I right now just close the database and leave and look, okay, we've left that database. That is saved. If I come back to that file, that data's still going to be there. So let's go over here to Golden Hill. And what do you know? That table is there. I double click. There's your data. It's there. It's saved. Now another important thing you need to know is that you only save when you're in design view. So if I make a bunch of changes here, ooh, okay, so that's not valid. But if I just start like making a bunch of new fields, blah, 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 and I right click close, or you can just click little close button, this little close button right here, it's gonna say, hey, do you wanna save? If I say yes, now these are all gonna be new fields. If I say no, then I come back and none of that got saved, no new fields. Now, the reason I'm telling you about saving is because when you're editing data, there is no saving. Every time you do something, it saves it immediately. So I'm just gonna mess up Alvarez's name over here and put a bunch of junk on the end. See that? See all that junk I put on the end? Joe?
Yeah, I said yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear you. Look at all this junk I put on the end. I messed up Alvarez's name, right? So notice how it's pencil, means I'm still editing, and now I leave. That's saved. Notice I didn't hit Control S. I didn't press the save button up. I didn't save anything. As soon as I left that record, it was saved. So now I'm just gonna close this and come back in. Oh, look, it's still there.
Yeah.
So notice, as soon as you start doing stuff, as soon as you leave, it saves. And the reason I'm trying to drill that point home is because you do not have to press anything. When you're in datasheet view, there is no, oh, oops, I forgot to save. Nope, everything is immediate right away. The thing that's not immediate is design view. You have to save this. Okay?
Okay.
And the reason that's important is because this works very different from Excel. In Excel, in order for all this random stuff I start typing in to stick here, I actually have to save the file somewhere. You know, I have to go, oh, put it in the desktop, blah, 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 whatever, right? That's not true in Access. In Access, once you've designed a table, everything you do is permanent. It's immediate. It's saved. So this database, whenever I change the data in the datasheet view, it's permanent. So be very careful, because if you start doing stuff and just go, oh, I'll just close it and I didn't save, so it's okay. No, it's not okay. Everything you do is immediate when it comes to data now. The thing that's not immediate is the design. This is not immediate. This you have to save. So you got your 2 views. There's 2 ways of interacting with this table. You can design the table You need to save that and design how you're going to have it and save that design. And data sheet view is where your data lives, where it's all going to be deposited, and there is no saving. It's just immediate. All right, so you understand about the table now?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's all I'm gonna do. Honestly, I don't expect you to absorb all of that or fully understand all of that, but you can see the basics of a table. And now I'm gonna move to step 2, which is creating a form, which is the UI. Remember I said I'm gonna say 2 words a lot, database and UI. All I've shown you right now is how to make the database. This is your data, this is your information. But this is not what your administrator and your staff is going to be looking at. No. They need something easy to work with that they can understand really easily and really quickly and work with, okay? So I'm going to right click this and close this, because now that we've made your database, we're now going to make your UI. And your UI, your program, your way of interacting with that data is going to be create. And this little thing says form, so I'm going to click form. And bam, just like that, you have a new UI. Okay, so I'm gonna go right click and I'm gonna go design view. Now this is how you design forms. Forms are totally different. And remember I said when you're in design view, you actually do need to save. So I'm gonna save, and we're gonna call this FRM for form students and say okay. Okay, so.
You made forms. So forms is what the user is going to be seeing, right?
Correct. And there's 2 things you're going to look at. You can ignore this middle one that says layout view. Just ignore this for now. Don't worry about it. All you need to think about is form view and design view. Right now we're in design view. Okay, I'm going to go to form view. This is what people are going to use when they're interacting with your data. This is the UI. And I'm going to rename it. Let's go back to design view really quick. And I'm going to design this form and say, I don't want it to say that. I'm just going to say student interface. That's what I'm going to call it. And then I'm also going to make it, let's go home. I'm just going to make it bold. I'm going to make those letters blue. It's blue. I'll make it sky blue. And I'm going to make the outline white. Or no, I'm going to make the background white. There we go. So let's go back to form view. See, it changed. Actually, I'm not going to make it white. Let's go.
Wow. The slide is deep. I see how detailed you have to be, like capitals and capitals.
I'm actually going to take away that. Let's go back to transparent and say save. Go back to form view. Okay, so now you got a new form called student interface. Okay. Yeah. So what we've done is we made a UI, and you saw it just took me like literally 1 second to make. So what happens with this UI is it's very different than datasheet view. When you're in form view, this is how you change the data. Instead of Megan, I'm going to call her.
How did you make a forms object again?
Okay, I'm going to close it really quick and just show you what I did. All I did was say create, and I clicked form. And then bam. Okay, so it just created it automatically for me. That doesn't normally happen. I know why it's doing that. Let me just make a second table really quick. I'm going to call this table. We'll say grades. Okay, and I'm just going to save that. I'm just making another table. All right, there's your form students. All right, normally this is what you're going to see when you create a form. You say form, and okay, no, I think I know what's happening. If I hover over this, and then say create, and then form, it'll do it for grades. So I'm going to close that. But if I have this highlighted, students, and then create, and then form, it'll make you one for students.
Yeah, because you have data as students.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could have had data and grades too. Like, here, I'll even make it. I'll just go design view. We'll say grade ID, because I always name my ID. And then we'll say what the grade is. We'll say what the, yep, that's it. We'll just say grades. And then I'm going to go on grades, and I'm going to say, okay, hold on. We're going to need more than that. Because what?
You can put GPA.
Well, what do you want to know about grades? But like you're gonna want to know about like what class this was for. So let's put a class ID in there. Yeah, we'll not worry about the teacher. Okay, so now there's some basic info. We'll just say the grade was an A. It was a B. Oh, you also want to know like what student got that grade. So not just not just what grade it is, not just what class it's in, but what student, got that grade. And want to make that a number as well. Always make sure my IDs are numbers because that's just how I roll. And I'll explain why later. So if I highlight table grades, oh yeah, let's put some grades in there. We just designed it. We didn't actually put any grades. Let's put those grades in there. And then right now we'll just make all the IDs 1. And we'll make all the classes 1. Well, we'll make some different classes. Yeah, okay, yeah, there we go. All right, so now we have data and grades as well, okay? So I could have clicked grades, create, form, and it would have gave me something for grades too, based on that table.
See? It did.
Yep. But I don't want to do that right now. Right now we're working with students. So I'm going to students, create, form, bam, we have a new one. But since I already made this, I'm just going to go to the one that I already made, table, form students, all right? All right, I know I just did a bunch of stuff really, really fast. So I
understood all that.
I'm going to give you a chance for questions in a second. Let's go to design view. All right, there's 2 views. Remember how I said in the tables, there's the design view. Oops. Hold on a second, let me close that. Remember I said there's design view where you're designing a table and the shape and the container, and then there's data sheet view where the data actually is. Very similar thing is going to be forms. You're going to have a design view, and then you're also going to have a form view. Design view is when you're creating the shape. It's the shape, okay? So think of the form like a window. The form is a window, a very pretty way for you to see inside the database. Yeah, we could just open up the table, but you know, sometimes you're gonna have like 1,000 students. And this is not a very neat way to look at the data. You need a nice, pretty, easy, good-looking way to look at the data, and that's why you have forms. And so you design it in design view, how you want the form to look. Like I could just take out citizenship, for example. In fact, let's take out citizenship. Let's take out all the address stuff. Let's just say we don't care about that. We just want a form that tells us about the student, right? Like name and date of birth and sex. I just designed this form, very easy. I created it. You saw me, I had to create form. Bam, I have this student interface, okay?
Yeah.
You understand how I got that far, right? So,
yes.
But why, how does it know who my students are? Like, look, I'm clicking next record, next record, next record. These are all the students I just created. Jessica, Joseph, Roxanne, Ralph, Megan.
Yeah.
How does it know about all my students?
Because it's connected to the tables.
It is connected to that table. This window, this form is just a window to a table. It's a way for us to see that table. But here's the thing, it's not just a window. You can reach into that window and change the information. So let's change Megan Rapinoe's birthday. And notice, since I said this is a date time, it automatically knows to put this little calendar here. So I'm gonna click that little calendar and change it to September, actually, let's say August the 5th, 1981, okay? And notice the pencil is there. And as soon as I leave, I'm just gonna close this. Oops, actually you weren't supposed to see that. It's asking me, did I wanna save the view because I actually changed the design. It normally won't ask you that, but because I changed, remember I deleted all that stuff? I didn't save that yet. Because you have to save if you change the design. Just like tables, if you edit the design, you have to save. But normally if I'm just changing stuff like her date of birth, let's change it to 1982, and I just leave, it'll just let you leave. It doesn't even ask you if you want to save.
Oh, okay.
Only reason it asked me if I wanted to save is because I messed with the design view. Just like tables, you only need to save for design view. But if you're working with data, so I'm gonna go to form view and you start changing stuff, it just happens right away. So now I'm just gonna leave and it's changed. Now if I go, look, 1982, August the 6th, 1982. Now I'm gonna open up the table students. What do you think her birthday is gonna be in there?
December 11th.
No, wait, what? Why December
I don't know.
11th?
I just said that randomly because.
Well, I just changed it to August the 6th, 1982.
Yeah, on the tables.
No, in the form, I changed it to
I didn't.
1982. Right? So I'm gonna change it to August the 7th, 1983. I'm gonna leave. All right, August the 7th, 1983. Now, if I open up students, what do you think her birthday is gonna be?
It wouldn't be the 7th. It would be the 6th because you only changed it in forms. You didn't change it from the source.
All right, let's take a look. Nope. August the 7th, 1983. Why is that? Why is it if I change
that's weird.
stuff? Why if I change stuff? Let's change her name from Megan to Marjorie. I don't know how to spell that. Whatever. and then let's close that. And I come back here. Oh, what's this?
Yeah, it changed.
Yeah, in the table. Even though I changed it over here in the form. All right, I'm going to change it back to Megan. Okay, and then I'm just going to go ahead and close it. Whoa, it's Megan here. Why is it Megan in the table when I'm changing it on the form?
I guess it is connected then.
Because it's connected. That's precisely it. So when I said it's a window, what I'm trying to tell you is whenever you make forms, whenever you make a UI, what you're doing is you're just making a window to the table. This is just a different way of looking at that same data.
Oh, okay.
Right? So look, there's these little controls here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to change this form. You don't have to worry about what I'm doing right now. The point is I'm changing this to a pop-up. And we're going to go ahead and save that, close that, and reopen it. And bam, now it's a pop-up. See this? Now it's a pop-up window. Not only am I going to do that, I'm going to throw in a little button to save the data. So I'm going to just go ahead and say button. I'm going to create a new button, and I'm going to say I want it to be a way to save the record. Next, finish, and I'm going to just stick that right there. Oops. What I'm going to do is just move that down a little bit, put that right there, and then say save, save the form. Okay, now this is what our form looks like, okay? Actually, I still don't like it very much. Let's just go ahead and go back here real fast. I want to make this a little bit smaller. There's a lot of wasted space. Let's hit save, close, close. All right, so here's our student interface. Cool, huh?
Yeah.
What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go click this little button right here. There's these little arrows that let you go back and forth. If you hover over each one, it'll tell you what it does. I'm just gonna go to the one that says new record, and I'm gonna make a new guy. I'm gonna name him Jude Banjo for whatever reason. I'll make him April the 1st, 1996, and male. Okay, and I'm gonna hit save, and bam, now we have, so now when I open students, do you think he's gonna be in that table?
Yeah, because you're saving it, and you're doing it in forms.
Okay, let's open it up, and yeah, there he is. How did he just get into the table? I'll tell you why, because this form is not where the data is. All of your data is in the tables, okay? So
Then why didn't street address, city, state, zip, and citizenship come up in the forms tab?
Because I deleted that from the form. This is just a window, and you can have that window show as much or as little of that table as possible. So right now, this is a small window. That window only has this. It's a small window. I can make that window bigger and include more things.
Okay.
But I'm not going to do that right now because I don't want to do that right now. But I can control what this form is like. Okay, and that form says I only want to see this stuff right now. So when I open that up, that's all it shows.
Yeah.
And if I start changing stuff, that's all it's going to be able to change because I made that window. So all you need to know about forms and tables is a table is where your data lives, and the form is the way you manipulate that data. You can, of course, just go to this table and say, oh, I'm going to change it from Jude to J. All right. And then I'm going to just exit so that the pencil goes away. And then now when I go to my form and I go to the 6th record, right? Now it's J.
Yeah.
So this is the same data, but it lives in the table. This is just a way to look at it, but it actually only lives in the table. So I want you to take a guess from me right now. What if I were to delete the student table? What do you think would happen to the form?
If you were to delete the form?
No, all right, hold on a second. I'm gonna save a copy because I'm gonna mess up the database real fast. Don't worry about what I'm doing. Okay. So we have our student and our form, right? We made ourselves a student table, and we made ourselves a student form. What do you think would happen if I deleted the student table?
I couldn't see why you would want to do that. That would just delete this. There would be no more form.
There would be no students left because that's where the data lives, right? So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to actually delete the students.
You know what my question is?
What?
Why isn't table grades also popping up in the forms student tab? Even because like
It's not.
that,
What do you mean?
you see table grades?
Yeah. This is
Yeah, and
all
then
your tables, all
yeah,
access objects.
then it should pop up in all the forms, shouldn't it?
No. Nope. I didn't connect it to that. I connected it to that table, table
I
student.
didn't see you connect it. How did you connect?
Yep. Okay. The way I did it is when I went to create and form, I had this picked. So when it made the form, it made it based on student stuff.
Oh, because it was highlighted.
Yep. Now I'm going to highlight grades and then hit and go create form. And now it's grade stuff.
Oh, okay. That was all the
Okay. Now this is a very simplified way of doing it. This is not even scratching the surface of how complicated this can get. We're still very, 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 very surface level is what you need to understand.
Mhm.
So here's your student interface and here's your table. What happens if I delete this student, this table students? Right now, I go and I delete. What do you think would happen?
Well, the form students would have no more data in it.
Correct. Very good. And what makes you say that?
Because
That's
it's
very
connected to
correct.
because all dude, all of the data you've been putting in a form or the table has been changed equally on
Yeah.
both.
Okay, so when I open it up, look at that. Ah, what's going on here?
I mean, you still have the data like for like the fields, but you don't have the data.
Yeah, it's just it has nothing. Now I click these little arrows, there's nothing.
It does have a record of the fields, I've noticed.
Yeah, because I designed that. Those are just labels. That's not
Oh,
data.
okay.
Those are just labels. Look, I can't type anything here. This isn't information. I don't know what students you had. This is just the shape of the form, and you know that at some point this stuff existed, but you don't know who any of the students are, meaning you have no data because I deleted the data.
Yeah.
All right, so it's gone. Now I'm going to do a very similar thing. Let's go back to the copy I saved, and let's open these back up. What do you think would happen if I delete this form? Or what do you think would happen to that table?
It might honestly, I don't think it would delete the I don't think it would delete the data in the table.
Okay, let's go ahead and delete this form students. Delete. And let's go to the students table, and it's all still there. So what is it that I just deleted?
The form.
Yes, which is what? I've been using an analogy.
The window, the user interface.
Exactly, it's just a window. It's just a way to look at the data.
Yeah.
There's no data in the form. It's
For
just
non-programmers. I get that.
exactly. It's just a way for people. So I'm going to recreate this, and I'm going to go design view, so I can change the name of this students interface. And I'm going to say, let's make it bold and underlined and blue and view. Okay, and I'm going to save. Oh, yep, I'm going to save this, and I'm going to name this form students. And there we have a form. So you can create and delete forms because these are just views. These are ways to view the information that's in a table. Okay, this is the window, but this is where the data actually lives. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just show you some very basic notes, and I recommend you write these down. These are the notes I used when I was introducing Jude to Access, and this is what I taught him last week. Here's some very basic information about tables. Tables is where the data lives. That's what I've been telling you. Forms, the data does not live here. Does not live here. It's just a UI, a window to the data. Okay? So when you mess things up, now look, here's the thing. Just because this is a window to the data doesn't mean this isn't affecting the data. This is affecting the data. If I change this from fake street to real street, and then I, close this out. Oh, look at that. So you can still change the data. You're reaching into the window when you use this to change the data, but it doesn't actually live here. The data isn't in the form. It's just a way for you to get to the data. Understand? Hello? Hello?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I couldn't for a second. Did you get all that?
Yeah, I heard it. Yeah, I took notes. I already got them down.
Oh, you wrote this all down already?
Yeah, no, I just took a picture. I'm taking
Oh,
pictures.
oh, that's smart. Very smart. Just take a screenshot. Very smart. So yeah, important thing about a table is that's where the data lives. I already told you this earlier, but the very first field is always an ID and it's always auto number. And there's other fields too, but there's an ID auto number and columns and fields. The design view is for the shape of the table, such as like the names and the types, but the table view is for actually editing that data. Okay, you remember all that?
Yeah, are you done editing so I can?
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done. I just made a minor change. Forms, the data does not live here. This is just a user interface. It's a way for you to look at the data, and you can also change the data here. It's just the most important thing you need to remember is the data is not here. I know it looks like it is, but it actually lives here in the tables. Okay?
Technically, the data does live there because when you change it, it changes on the table.
No, it doesn't live here. We're just looking at it.
Right. It doesn't live. Yeah, okay.
Let me put it this way. Your money lives in the bank. Just because you can change your account from the website does not mean the money lives in your computer. Your actual money, how much you have, yeah, it's going to show up in your computer. Like, let's say this form is your computer. It's going to show up. But only the bank has access to where the data actually lives. So you can only see it the way they want you to see it. So the bank will make their own forms that maybe only lets you see some basic stuff. They don't even let you see all the other stuff. They just let you see some of it. Kind of how, remember earlier I showed you only some of the data with this window and not all of it?
Mm-hmm.
There's all kinds of windows. There's all kinds of forms. Sometimes it has everything. Sometimes it has a few things. Sometimes it has almost nothing. What you need to understand is it's not where the data actually lives. It's a place that you can see it and you can do some editing, but it's not where it truly is. And how do I know that? Because if I delete this form, data's still there. The data only ever really goes away when you delete it at the source, and this is the source of all the data.
Exactly.
This is just a way to look at it, a way to edit it. You can edit it, you can look at it, all that stuff, but it's not where the data lives. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so that is the end for right now. That's it. That's the end of it. What your okay, so I gave Jude homework for last week, and I guess I'm going to do the same for you. And what that's going to be is it's pretty simple. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing right now. Very, very simple. All the homework is you're going to make your own database. You're going to create a database. You saw me do it. You can do it too. You're going to make a table, and it's not going to be students. Instead, what you're going to do for me is you're going to make a table called Table Professors. And then you're going to make a form based on that table. So you're going to create your own database. You're going to create your own table. You're going to create your own form. Got that?
Got it.
It's not that bad. Should be pretty straightforward. You're going to make table professors, and you're going to make a form called form professors. And that's it. And what you're going to do is you're going to add a few professors in there. You know, put as many as you want. But just have some in there, and then I'm going to look over it. And that's it. That's all you need to know. And believe it or not, that's all you need to know for the entire week. I can follow up with you during the week to make sure you actually was able to do it. This is what I did with Jude. You know, he did it in front of me, and I checked over, and it looked good. And then I told him, yep, go back and do more. Make another table. Make another form. Go ahead and design it. Change the way it looks. Change some colors. Change the shape. That's all you need to know for this week.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you for your time.
All right, so now I'm going to just stop this